Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and, most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. There is no theory on this or my twice a week long form podcast. This is brought to you by transportation professionals for transportation professionals. I am a firm believer that you need to learn from the people who have done, who are also doing what you're trying to accomplish, you guys. There's a lot of those that information that needs to be out there, and that's what we're here to talk about. It's also one of the many reasons why I proudly fly this American flag behind me every single day. A, we're the greatest nation on earth, but B, I'm living my American dream, and I want to help each and every one of you guys live your American dream as well. I got a very special guest for you guys today. We're going to talk about some cross-border freight and all of that, but before I do that, you guys, I got to give a shout out to my friends over at VHub. You guys, vhubapp.com. Whether you're a broker, carrier, or a shipper, we all need access to freight. Or trailers, excuse me, at some point in time. And the best part about with what they have, you get paid to move these trailers, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. That's revenue on top of the revenue you can get by loading these trailers out. So what they're working on right now, they got West Valley City, Utah going to Calgary, Alberta, and you get $1,550 US to move that trailer. They also have a drop trailer pool opportunity here, you guys, in two separate locations. Paragould, Arkansas, going to Mississauga, Ontario. They got some dry vans down there. You get 800 Canadian per move on that. And then they also have, I think I skipped over, excuse me, the other one is Stoughton, Wisconsin, over to Milton, Ontario. And there's 200 dry vans there, and you get 600 Canadian to move those trailers each, you guys. So again, if you can't get in the door with the shipper, drop trailer capacity is a massive value add out there, and especially cross-border freight that can come along with it, you guys, which ironically is also our topic of conversation today. But on top of that, you guys, and then finally, they got Milton, Ontario to Moncton, New Brunswick, and you get 400 Canadian to do that. So hit them up, you guys, vhubapp.com. My friends Xavier Campos and Stacy Steen, they will be in the audience. Just do me a favor. Let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Nathan with BPW Logistics says, good fucking morning, Freight Nation, and everyone who knows ESG is oh, man, he's watching over on YouTube, you guys. I also stream live over there. So if you guys jump over there, you guys subscribe and share the show. Sonny Sharma, good fucking morning, Orange Shirt Gang. Let's fucking go. Cody Miller, good fucking morning, Freight Enthusiasts. Looking forward to another great episode of the Freight Coach Morning Show. Cody, I appreciate you, brother. And then Aaron Sharma says, good morning, hashtag Orange Shirt Gang. All right, you guys, I'm going to bring my guest up for today. We're going to talk about his journey in transportation, cross-border freight, and all that fun stuff. So I got Mr. Tom Grandy here with the Tory. So what's up, dude?
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Oh, man, it's always going good. You know, like I think everything's in perspective, and life has a phenomenal way of humbling you as soon as you think you have a bad day, and then you hear something and you're like, oh, fuck, I guess my day wasn't that bad, actually.
Yeah, no, you got to keep everything in perspective. That's for sure.
Dude, so how'd you get your start in the industry, man? Like what brought you in here? You know, tell a little bit of your story.
Well, it's funny. I was with an old friend in Detroit over the weekend, and he was back in 2010. He told me about a job fair that was going on.
Yeah.
And I went to it in my local town, London, Ontario. And anyways, I met my future boss there for C.H. Robinson. So within about 2 weeks of meeting him, I ended up working for C.H. Robinson. And then I worked for a manufacturing facility, doing the logistics there, as well as going back to the guy who originally hired me. Yeah. With the company he has based out of Florida, and then eventually jumping in, starting my own business. So it's been a bit of a crazy ride, but it's funny how just attending a random job fair ended up getting me in the position I am now.
Dude, so yeah, man, that story is so on par for everybody. It's like half of the industry, Tom, are just like that. They're like, I don't know, I showed up at this job fair and they're like, we'll give you $40K a year base, and you're like, oh, fuck, cool. Or the other ones are people who grew up in the industry, like, oh, my dad was a trucker, my uncle or grandfather, and everything else. So, dude, I think it's very relatable, man. So, like, how let's talk about starting your own business here for a little bit. When did you
Sure.
actually go out on your own? How long has it been now?
So the actual date was May 4th, 2020. So that was so I like peak of pandemic.
Love it.
I
I got to say this, Tom. I filed my LLC April 27th of 2020. So I was
you got me by a few days.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So it's been a crazy ride, and obviously the first year and a half or so was a little hectic, obviously, with what was going on around the world. But it's nice that we're in an industry that's essential. Things still need to be moved all the time, and it was a tough time, but a great learning period. That's for sure.
Dude, I look at it like this, man. I don't know about you, but at least for me, if I had any other option but to make that work, I would have fled to that other option right away. I think starting out, it was the best time for me because nobody was hiring. And, this might come as a shock to some people. I am a man of faith. I do pray every single day. And I've been praying for a long time. I've been praying to God, like I want to be my own boss and do my own thing.
Yep.
It never happens in here's a wad of cash, just run with it. It's going to be in that time. And that was the best time for it. And I think that starting in any other time than one of the most uncertain periods, at least in our lifetime from an economic standpoint, was the best time for me to start, because it's like, really, dude, my back's been against the wall for almost the last 3 years, as yours has as well. And it's like, perform or go hungry. Like, that's my mentality.
Yeah. My dad's an entrepreneur as well. So I, had the ability to watch him growing up, and the amount of hours that he put in, and how, if he said he was going to get something done one way or another, he figured it out. Right. So I grew up watching that, and I've always kind of been a bit of a gambling guy. So, my biggest, if I wanted to go out in a business on my own, and I wanted to bet on myself.
Yeah.
And I know that I'll go all in to make sure I make it work. So it's obviously nerve wracking, but I'd rather bet on myself than be working for somebody else and taking chances.
Dude, I'm right there with you. I kind of chuckle when I hear all these guys talk about like, oh, I put a 14 parlay together. I'm like, I put a 40-year familial fucking future together. Like,
exactly. Right.
So it's like, you keep a little parlay, man. I'm going to fucking build this up here. But dude, I think that what you just said there is, it's super powerful, because it's like, the balance that I think a lot of people search for, it doesn't exist. Like, it does exist, but it's like, it's not a 9 to 5, like nights and weekends off and everything else. But it's like talking about that uncertainty. And dude, it's funny you say that. Like, you guys, this is really the first time Tom and I have ever talked, just an FYI. We've sent some DMs back and forth, but this is like our first real live conversation. And I've told myself that all the time, is I would rather take the uncertainty of doing it for myself than the uncertainty of trying to appease my boss to make sure I still had a job. Now, I know that there's a lot of circumstances that have hit some organizations recently. There's been a ton of layoffs that are out there right now. And again, I feel for those individuals, but I also think like for anybody who was affected by those layoffs and stuff, that like, there's no better time to start than now. Like, there is no, if you've been remotely thinking about getting out there and doing your own thing, now is the time. Don't wait till next year. Don't wait for any other time. Start right now. Like, dude, there's some reason. Because again, like, dude, I will scream from the mountaintops about SPI Logistics and the backing that they have and the support that is there by being an agent from them. You can literally take the agent route if you don't want to do anything else, or if you just want to test your feet in the waters and you have an established book of business, dude, that's the way to go. They got full back office support. You don't have to worry about insurance, any of that stuff. Like, so like, what was your biggest hurdle just starting out as a broker on your own?
There's definitely a lot. One of the biggest hurdles I found was once I found, like, because I did have a little bit of business that came with me when I came over here. And then the biggest hurdle I've found, I think, is the hiring process.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And then just to touch on the, start now, there's no better time than now. Like, when I started, I left a good paying job. I had at the time, 3-year-old at home, and my wife was pregnant, and 2 months after I founded Vittori, I had a newborn. So it's been chaos for the last. So in regards to balance, I don't really think that there is a great balance. It's just you do the best you can. You make.
Do you think it would have worked out this way if it wasn't like that, though? If like it was perfect world scenario, you know?
Well, I agree. I think that like you almost have to have like a gun to your head to like be like, okay, I got to get there's. I don't have any other options. Like I have to make this work. And that's like regardless of if that was the situation I was in or not. Like that's the mentality I think that you have to have. And you know you've got to lead your team and do all that, and you can't show if things are you can't show that you're scared, or you can't show that that you're getting upset or whatever. You've got to be strong face and just be as positive as you can,
dude. And I'm reading this book right now, and I think like I'm only a couple of pages in, but like I've already pulled away I think the most valuable piece out of this book, and it was have a picture of your children eating their food on your desk.
That's great. Absolutely.
Because for me, dude, if I don't hunt, my son doesn't eat. And I look at it like this. If I don't perform, if I don't show up and make my outreaches every single day, if I don't put my content and my marketing materials and all that stuff out, what's going to be worse? The pain of hearing my son crying because he's hungry, or the pain of a little bit of a rejection that you get from the non-response?
Yeah, exactly. And when you put that in perspective, it's like, what's a bad cold call? Does it really ruin your day? Like, come on, you got to put things in perspective and just move on.
Yeah, laugh about it, because they're because like the reality is, Tom, they don't remember you 5 seconds after you called. Like you could literally call them the next day, and if they do remember you, kudos. Guess what? You just got a fast track to them. They're like, yeah, you're the person who couldn't complete a sentence yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm trying to take another stab at it, but no, dude, I think that there's a lot of power in that. Let me give some shout outs to the audience here quick, and then let's talk about cross-border freight. Diego Fonseca, good morning. Let's fucking go. Tracy O. St. Clair says happy Tuesday, everyone. Jason Seguin, morning. Snowy Rudes in Vancouver today. Stay safe, everyone. Patrick Provance, good fucking morning, everyone. Zach Williams says good morning, Freight Fam. He is with SPI Logistics. You guys hit him up if you want to join that. Lewis, what's up? He says, let's go from St. Louis, Missouri.
People fired up.
Aaron Sharma, there is never a bad call. It's a learning moment. Yeah. Amen to that, Aaron. So dude, would you say your specialization is cross-border? Cause how we kind of rekindled us connecting was as you threw something out there a couple weeks back. I think it was about an LTL shipment, right? Yeah.
Frozen LTL. I think it was Oregon to Quebec.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. And so like, is that your niche, man? Is that what you've really focused on the most, is cross-border? Is it cross-border LTL? Talk about that.
The majority of what we focus on, yes, would be cross-border. And to be honest, we don't shy away from LTL, but we do more truckload business than we do LTL cross-border. But specifically, yes, if you can find, shippers that need frozen LTL, there's a massive market out there for people that can do that. It's a very limited carrier base, and is oftentimes like that particular one that you're speaking of was a challenge. We ended up getting it done, but it was definitely challenging. With regards to cross-border freight, things right now are a little touch and go. Capacity is definitely down. Things in the Northeast, like Virginia, for example, like a lot of guys don't want to go in and around there. So rates from Canada to go into the US are quite high, as well as one big thing that we deal with every year now is obviously produce season. I do bring in a lot of textiles and things like that from Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. And, this time of year when produce is hot, it's the rates go through the roof. So we try and help our customers with their inventory, letting them know well in advance what's happening in the market. And so if they can bring in product in earlier, saves them quite a bit of money. So, but not everybody can do that.
Yeah, no, I think like have you relied on that niche the most here over the, or like, was your existing business that you had kind of all over the place? And like, really, what have you focused on as you scaled?
It was it was kind of all over the place, to be honest with you. But yes, I agree that how I but how I started as I went after flatbed business.
Yeah.
A lot of heavy haul, a lot of steel business, and we're close to Hamilton, Ontario, which is a big steel area in Canada. So we that was one big focus, and we do have a couple guys here that just focus strictly on flatbed.
Gotcha.
And we try and do as much of that as we can. So that's one big one. But right now we're trying to really make our way back into the food and beverage industry. That's one that we're really targeting right now.
Yeah, no, because I think people get confused a little bit because I talk about focusing on a niche all the time, but I'm talking about the individual sales rep, as you're building up your book of business, because I'm a firm believer that the confidence that everybody's searching for on the phone is only going to be earned through repetition. And at least what I've identified over my career is if you're focusing on a niche, they tend to all have the same pain points, and you can, and for me, it's more of how do we minimize our outreach, from like, if it took 12 conversations, how do we get that down to like 8 conversations or 6 conversations? And I think like knowing how to approach your prospect based off of your existing book of business will always put you a leg up on the competition, because most people are very broad. They're very basic. I mean, if you need any more proof, you guys, it's shipper week on Coffee with the Freight Coach. All right. I have 2 shippers who I sat down with and interviewed extensively. One released today. The next one's going to be released Friday. If you don't believe me, hear it from them. They're the ones who field all of our phone calls, all of our emails and everything else. And they literally tell you what to say in those calls.
Yeah. And that's, with sales reps here, I'm very adamant about making sure that they know exactly who they're calling, making sure that they're they know what industry obviously they're in, because there's so many people that call that have no clue as to, they look them up on Google or whatever, right? It's just like, so we really do our homework prior to making the call to make sure that we're reaching out, knowing exactly, and we mentioned specifics about their business, and mention where they're located and all that, rather than thinking that they're just getting a blanket email from somebody that they type up the same thing and shoot it to 100 different shippers and hope something sticks. So
yeah, dude, I'm right there with you. It's like be very direct, and especially if you see that they have, because I don't know, Chris Brewer, buddy of mine with River City Logistics, he was on a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about a lot of this, and just be very targeted in what you're trying to do, because again, it's like I always challenge people this, Tom, read your pitch. Read your sales email. Would you buy from you? Put yourself in your prospect's chair, knowing that everyone's sending an iteration of that.
Yeah. And one thing back to the specifically, we focused on a lot of expedite freight as well.
Yeah.
And I preach to everybody that we're 24/7, 365. So, so whether it's, 6 a.m. on a Sunday or 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, when you call us, someone will answer that phone and make sure we get the job done for you. So yes, it's a lot of extra work, but it's worth it because, we're building and getting our foot in the door with a lot of people when other companies aren't answering their phone, or you call and you have to go through 8 different extensions or whatever to get to the right person. Like as soon as you call Vittori, someone picks up the phone and we'll get on whatever you need right away.
Yeah. Because I think if people focused more on customer retention than on customer acquisition, a lot of what they're looking for, I think a lot of the growth that everybody wants is actually already inside of their book of business. I'm a firm believer in that. It's just they're not responding on weekends. They're not responding in off hours. Some people, again, I'm not here to tell anybody how to live your life at all. Do you? I'm going to do me. But if an email from a customer or a phone call from a customer comes in at 8, 9 o'clock at night, you need to take that call. Like if you're 100%. Asleep, okay, I get it. We all need to sleep. But if you're awake and you see that phone ringing and you're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to take this. I'll take that call if they call me. If I'm awake, I'm taking that call. I mean, it's part of it. And you have to do that because again, because it's like everybody always thinks like, oh, it's just one load. It might be this time, but what if that opportunity that you had been consistently working, now that customer starts giving the person who bailed them out an opportunity to at least quote that load or loads?
Yep.
Then what happens?
And if you do exactly what you just said, you're going to get referral business one way or the other. People talk, and it's not hard for either get a very poor reputation or a great reputation in the industry. So, and there's all kinds of carriers and brokers that we know that have those poor ones. And so, if you are dedicating yourself and answering those emails and replying and doing what you say you're going to do, things will fall into place for you.
Yeah, dude, I'm right there with you, man. Because again, I feel like yes, everybody like there is a ton of competition out there. There really is. There are a lot of freight brokers,
100%.
but there's really not that much competition if you truly abide by what you sell yourself on, because very few people will run towards a hard conversation. Very few people will be fully transparent when their truck is going to be 7 hours late due to a breakdown because of a production. Very few people rip the Band-Aid off and run into the fucking storm. A lot of people hope the storm passes and they go unnoticed. But in all reality, that's where your book of business will grow. That is where you're solidified as their top tier provider, is in those moments. And I challenge everybody who's listening to this right now, abide by what you sold yourself on for the next 6 months and tell me your book of business hasn't grown.
Yeah, and when you do call, don't just call and tell them what the problem is. Call and say, this is the problem. Here's the solution. Here's when it's going to be back up and running, and we'll provide the new ETA as soon as that happens. Like, have a plan in place as well. Don't, no one wants to just hear problems. I don't mind hearing a problem if you have a solution for it, but if you have nothing to tell me, then it doesn't do much good for me.
Dude, absolutely, man. So what's up this year coming in and out of Canada? I know that they're trying to get the vaccine mandate removed from inbound freight, right? Because it's old, like going into Canada, that's been removed, but coming into the States, that's still in place, correct?
Yes, correct.
Is that the big thing that's holding up capacity, you think, right now, coming with it? Or
it still is, yeah. I mean, and when you had to prove it both ways, like, it was a nightmare. Capacity dropped off by at least, I would say, 30%. If not more. So, it's still not back to where it was pre-pandemic levels, but we're going in the right direction now, and we just need to, if they drop that, I think that we'll see capacity go up by 10 to 15%.
I got you. So is that like, what's the biggest thing on your guys' docket this year when it comes to cross-border freight? Is there any potential legislation that's out there that could be making it more hard? Because like I mean, moving in and out of Canada, for the most part, outside of handing them customs documents, it's kind of like driving in the States. There really isn't that much of a change. You need your customs broker or your border broker, however you want to spin it, PARs, all that fun stuff. But like, I think for the most part, going in and out of Canada is quite easy.
It is. But it's all about finding the right carriers. So that's we've made a few investments in technology this year to make sure that we're properly vetting everybody. And then, as well as, we have our own internal scoring system, because there's just so many carriers out there that'll tell you everything you want to hear on the phone, and then the second that they pick it up, it's a nightmare all the way to delivery. So, in regards to legislation and whatnot, I'm not too concerned about anything, nothing too crazy changing. But what we are focused on is making sure that we're using the right carriers, and investing in our back end technology that helps us make sure that we're using the right guys, and not putting our customers in a bad position by hiring a guy that's either going to double broker it or has a very poor maintenance record, or he's had all kinds of fines, or just blatantly late and that kind of thing. So, dude, that's what we're focused on.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest components that I think is often never talked about. Is that vetting process, and it only pops up when the market drops down. And I don't know how people have a hard time conceptualizing that when you push rates down, you expose yourself to the individuals who they'll take your freight because they're going to double broker it. They know, like, they don't care. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care. But it's like you invest all this time in building up your carrier network and everything else. And it's like, if you have 30,000 in-network carriers, quote unquote, why the fuck are you going to a load board for anything? If you have 30,000 vetted carriers in your system, you know, because again, it's all smoke and mirrors at that point, because like they want to get the cheapest truck no matter what. They want to charge a premium rate to their customer and they want to get a cheap truck on it. Where my philosophy is pretty simple, man. I'm in it for the long term. All right. Like, I want the same trucks showing up time and time again to my customers' facilities. I want that comfort level there that comes along with it. And frankly, it's like, it shouldn't, like, the way that I do this should be of no concern to anybody else, because it's not affecting your P&L. It's affecting my P&L, but it's affecting it for the positive because my volume goes through the fucking roof with this.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, we tell shippers that, you know, if your only concern is the cheapest truck available, then we're probably not the best option for you. Because again, what we want to do is we want to have relationships with our drivers, with the shippers. They know the routine, they know all the requirements. And if you're choosing a different guy every single time, like, things are not going to run smoothly. And you open yourself up to a ton of liability if you're only choosing the cheapest guy, like, and you're just asking for trouble.
I just wish people would actually start tracking how many times they have to recover a load and how many people are dedicated to recovering that shipment. And if they would actually put pen to paper, they would realize, like, hey, if the market's at $1,500, we should probably just pay $1,500 instead of trying to find somebody at $1,300. Because lost productivity will never show up on a P&L. And I think, like, that's the biggest thing, you know. Shameless plug to Broker Carrier. We automate all of that for you guys. So just one click of a button, you can reuse your in-network carriers. You don't have to worry about a lot of this shit. But again, you have to be committed to actually doing it. And that's the hard part, you know, because again, I believe you enjoy making money, Tom. I'm assuming you do. I enjoy making money. I get the allure of trying to find a short-term bump out there. But if you're looking at it from a long-term perspective, how many future opportunities is that actually costing you if something goes wrong? And that's what you need to look at. You got to weigh that out.
Yeah, and I'll never, you know, take a quick buck and jeopardize my relationship with a customer long term. So, and I've seen lots of people do it, obviously, and I'm sure you have as well. But long term, if you want to build a proper business and retain those customers, you can't operate like that.
Dude, absolutely. Benjamin John, good morning. Thanks for tuning in. Andre Stewart, what's going on, man? He says, good morning, friends. And then load announcements at above market rates get swarmed with send it replies. Yeah, I've never met a broker who doesn't enjoy having their freight covered. It's really weird. Dude, Tom, I'm going to have you come back on, man. I really want to continue to talk about more in-depth cross-border opportunities. Because again, I'm all about the niche, man. I think, like, if you're really building that stuff off. And then furthermore, you guys, if you don't have a cross-border partner or anything, or maybe you want to start selling in it, I mean, can people reach out to you, Tom, to ask you some questions about, hey, how would I even establish this?
Yeah, 100%. You know, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email, anything like that. And, you know, I'd be more than happy to help anybody.
Perfect. Tom, thank you so much for joining today. And yeah, you guys hit him up. If you have any cross-border freight, hit up Tom. You guys, he's a great resource out there. And but that's it for today, you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll break down some more industry headlines as always. And if you saw value in what you heard here today, you guys, share the show, subscribe to it, share it, get it out there. That's how we are the top show in transportation, is because of each and every one of you. And that's how we're going to continue to grow and reach more and more people, is because if you guys see value in it, your network's going to see value in it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you so much, Chris.